Listen up there, YouTube. Chip here with the Iconic Sports Cycle Moto Vlog. Hey, it's early morning. I'm on my way to work. I'm going a different route this morning. I'm heading in A1A. I'm coming down the B line right now, where we're merged with A1A and Cape Canaveral. I just want to share this gorgeous sunrise with you. That's one of the great things about living on the east coast of Florida. You get these beautiful sunrises coming up over the water. I'm coming up over the Merritt Island Causeway at the moment, and as you can see, we're sitting up high looking at the beautiful sunrise. Lots of colors in the sky this morning. Probably have a little rain this afternoon, so take advantage of this beautiful weather while I can. Today I want to talk about a little different subject. Unlike my normal routine where I like to talk about motorcycles, today we're just a few days away from Memorial Day. Monday is, of course, Memorial Day. And a lot of people will be heading to the beach to do some other things. Maybe do a little picnicking or spend a little time at the beach with the family. I always enjoy family time. You know, you get the extra day off sometimes depending on your job to enjoy that time with your family. But Memorial Day has kind of lost its meaning along the way somehow. I remember as a kid, you know, it was more geared towards remembering those that have given their life for our families and our way of life. Don't see that much anymore, I'm afraid. You know, you can see a few people talk about it. They're sometimes shunned because of it. But, you know, it seems like, you know, this day and age, it's more about, you know, doing other things, distractions in life, than paying attention to some of the important things in life. I know that, you know, there'll be a lot of big sales on Monday, a lot, you know, car sales, furniture sales, whatever. You know, people use this day off as to their advantage. But I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, you know, the men and women that serve in the armed forces. I personally have never served in the armed forces, never had that opportunity, but I grew up around it. I grew up in an area where there was a local Air Force base. I was surrounded by the brave men and women there. And now I'm fortunate enough to live by an Air Force base over here, and I get to see the men in uniform doing their thing locally. So I always find it inspirational. I was actually conceived in Hawaii. My dad was in the Air Force on his way to Japan when I was conceived. Do a little duty over there. My mom she had a sister and 5 brothers. Her sister served in the Navy, and her 5 brothers served during World War II in different theaters. Interestingly, you know, they all served simultaneously. My brother has a newspaper article talking about the car boys of Winthrop and how they were all serving simultaneously during World War II. The funny thing is, my brother has a packet of letters that my uncles had sent from, you know, the different areas where they were stationed. I guess it was against the rules to tell where you were stationed in the letters, but they had this little secret code that they worked out where every time they'd send a letter, they'd change their middle initial, and it would spell out you know, they'd look at the dates of the letters, and they'd, you know, be able to spell out where they were writing from. So that was kind of cool. So, you know, a little family history there. My brother had served, did a full term in the military, you know, retired from the military in the Army National Guard. I have a grandson who's a Marine, and I have a nephew that's just joined the Army. Very proud of those boys, choices they're making in life. I see good things for them in the future. We live in a kind of volatile world, so of course it's never a good thing to be put in harm's way, but, you know, hey, you know, somebody's got to do it, and it's good to have honorable young men that are willing to step up to the plate to do that. We're coming into Cape Canaveral right now. You see Port Canaveral over there to the left. That's where all the big cruise line ships come in, Disney liners, the gambling ships. Port Canaveral is a developing area. They've been trying to develop it into a port of call, lots of shops and restaurants. I wish good things for them. One of the reasons I decided to come to work this way this morning is I get to pass by the Air Force Station out here, Patrick Air Force Base. Out here quite often, you'll see men training out here. You'll see some of the jets coming in and out. The landing strip is right off the ocean here. Sometimes you'll see the helicopters coming in and out, doing their training as well. The Patrick Air Force Base is its borders Merritt Island on one side, and you've got the Cape Cocoa Beach on the other side. Probably many of you remember the TV series I Dream of Jeannie. Of course, Captain Nelson was a astronaut in the Air Force, and he was stationed out here in Cocoa Beach, or Cape Canaveral, and we lived in Cocoa Beach. A little bit of history there. But the military bases, there are several military bases in Florida, but the one I'm most familiar with is Patrick Air Force Base. Whenever I'm like in a 7-Eleven or restaurant or something, and I get the opportunity to see a young man in uniform, a young woman, I always like to take a moment and thank them for their service. I try and shake their hand and look them in the eye, and I hope that they know that my gratefulness is heartfelt, that I understand what they're doing, and that I'm truly grateful, and I hope that message comes across when I'm shaking their hand and tell them thank you. Usually they're very humble. Their way of accepting that gratitude is very humble. Most of them I don't think they really see what heroes they really are. But they truly are heroes. We're raised around superheroes where, Superman was, comes in to save the day, but, Superman's bulletproof. If you shoot him, the bullets bounce off. The young men and women in our armed services, when they step in front of a bullet, they're truly brave. They're not bulletproof. So because of that, that's why we have Memorial Day. Many have given their lives for the sake of freedom. We take many of the freedoms that we have today for granted. There are people out there that are burning the flag and stepping on the flag. They don't take into consideration that somebody wearing the flag on their uniform died to give them that right to do that. They do have that right. We do live in a country with that type of freedom. We see freedom. Actually, freedom is, spoken of pretty freely. As we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of choice. We have many freedoms. But the root word of that, free, it all came at a cost. None of it was really free. Many men and women gave, made many sacrifices, personal sacrifices. They sacrificed limbs and health, and many of them sacrificed families, and of course, ultimately, many sacrificed their lives so that we can have these freedoms that we enjoy today. I want to be grateful for those things. The families and their sacrifices. I think that Memorial Day is a good day to remember those things. Life is short. For people to dedicate themselves to a higher purpose, take some of the time, or a majority of the time in many cases, to serve others. I'm very grateful. Like I said, I've never served myself, but I've always been grateful of those that have. I think as we go through life, sometimes, events happen in our life that maybe will make us more grateful. Like I said, I kind of grew up around, military areas, so I was kind of familiar with it, always grateful. But as, after 9/11, things, took a little change for me. It became a little more heartfelt, emotional day, I think, for pretty much every American. Watching the towers fall and having an attack on our homeland, wasn't a pleasant thing for anybody, I don't think. I had my brother was actually still in the military at that point. It was before he retired. The day that this all took place, him and his family were on an airliner heading for Washington. So, I was unable to contact him for quite some time after the plane crashes, and I was unsure for quite a while that whether it was his plane that may have been one of the planes in the incidents, but we were spared that pain. Fortunately, we we had no loss on that day. But I feel bad for those that did. I remember the fear of the thought that my brother and his family might have been lost that day. Not a pleasant thing by any means. I think something that will stay with me the rest of my life, I think. I can't imagine those that lost loved ones on that day. There were truly heroes that day, and there were many heroes that stood up after the fact, that stepped in, did the hard work, rescue work and so forth, and made tough choices to serve their fellow man, even if they weren't military or police, or they just chose to do it out of the goodness of their heart, and I think that's important that they be recognized as well. Life is, like I said, life is short. So, love life, enjoy life, be grateful for it. Be grateful to those that have given theirs, that you may enjoy a better one. We live in a time where, things are rapidly changing. We're losing many of the freedoms that we were once had. Our founding fathers were pretty much geniuses. They knew, they understood certain things about inalienable rights, and and how rights come from God, and how it was government's job to just kind of protect those rights. Unfortunately, like I said, we seem to be getting away from that quite a bit. The rights of the many are overwhelming the rights of the individual. Not really the way it was intended. But again, people gave their lives for those rights. When they wrote the Declaration of Independence, and they were putting those founding documents together, and they talked about things like, pledging their lives and their fortunes and their sacred honor. If you can, just imagine, doing that. I mean, you're signing you're going against the most powerful country in the world. You're just a small group of, small handful of farmers putting together an army. How do you, I mean, you're signing a death sentence. If you get caught, if you lose this war, things aren't going to go well for you. That had to be a pretty inspirational time. There were inspirational men that stood up and, recognized what was right, and, men came to this country to seek that freedom of choice, that freedom of religion mostly, the ability to worship God the way that they chose. And as these rights became infringed, the right to live free, good men stepped up to do something about it. They prayed long and hard. I know history doesn't teach that anymore, but I highly recommend looking into some of the older history books. You'll find something maybe a little entirely different than what you can read now. But you'll find that they prayed long and hard. They prayed together. They learned to get along with one another's differences in religion. But they all came to the common understanding that our rights came from God. It was a free gift, and that it was the responsibility of government just to protect those and nothing else. I think that again, it's evil's job to come in and control our lives. Make those choices for us. I think that it's not in our best interest to let evil prevail. It's always been my, if you accept, the freedom that you have and make good choices, you should be able to benefit from them. If you make bad choices, you should suffer the results. You shouldn't have somebody telling you, hey, you're not responsible for your actions, and taking away that responsibility. So again, we live in a time where things are rapidly changing. I am grateful for the military and the fact that does seem to be one of the true staying points in our society, where men of honor still, it seems like the most honorable men we have in these days do seem to come from our military. So there's something special about people who decide to serve their fellow man in this capacity. To dedicate either all of or a portion of their lives to doing this kind of work. Like I said, I'm very grateful for those kind of people. I think they make the biggest difference in our lives, even still. I know Memorial Day is really to reflect on those that we've lost. I know that many of the people that get honored on this day are still with us. But again, I don't want to wait until we've lost them to be grateful. Like I said, I like to say thank you. I don't want anybody being in a position where they're in a foxhole somewhere thinking that nobody cares, nobody ever said thank you. I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that says thank you. I want be the representative for my family that says, hey, listen, you're out there fighting for my family, thank you. And I think it's our responsibility when they're out there doing that we get their back. We watch out for their families while they're here, and if for any reason they're unable to come home in the condition we sent them there in, then it's our responsibility to take care of them and their families as well. I think that we're doing a deplorable job at that right at the moment. We need to be spending more of our resources, I think, and focus on correcting these issues. I think that there are a lot of good people out there trying to do that. Unfortunately, I don't know, there seems to be other priorities these days. But I ask that, hey, if you ever run across somebody who's served, and you see these gentlemen that are wearing these World War II hats or Vietnam vet hats, take a minute, walk up and shake their hand for their service. Especially these Vietnam vets, a lot of them didn't get a fair shake. They were treated badly by not only the government but society in general when they returned. I remember being a kid growing up in that era. I fortunately never had the attitude about a negative attitude towards the military, but I remember it. I remember being around it. I remember seeing the propaganda about baby killers and so forth. That's something that I hope none of our servicemen will ever have to go through again. I know that it is, but it's something that they shouldn't have to endure. They should be treated like the heroes they are. I wouldn't want to have to make any of the choices that a lot of these men have had to make in their life. We live in some amazing times. We have amazing technology changing our world daily, and yet we still have childish things being argued about. Who's right, who's wrong. I think there's a natural order of things that when we stop following the natural order, we start control everything. That's when things kind of go awry. Man wasn't meant to control everything. Man should just submit to God and understand His will and purpose and just kind of go along with it. I think your life goes a lot better when you do that. It's less friction along the way. I think that men who seek peace are a peaceful solution for things, it'll always fare better. Unfortunately, there are those out there that will always seek to impose their will, through violence, terror, and that's why we have to have men of honor that will stand up and do the right thing and protect us, make the hard choices. And like I said, for this I'm very grateful. We're coming into the beachside area of Cocoa Beach. This is the area coming up close to the Air Force Base. Like I said, this is an area I just wanted to come by this morning. Just wanted to give thanks to the men and women in the armed forces. Locally, again, the men and women of Patrick Air Force Base. After 9/11, if you came out this way, there was a little bit more security. They actually had the roads blocked off out here. They had concrete pylons up along the way. They had the base set up, I guess, where they could seal it off quickly if necessary. Kind of different to see that change, but I guess it was necessary. I guess high alert means different things. So again, never served in the military, don't really understand the process, but I did see a lot of change out here during that time when after 9/11. You still see a little bit of change. Things are still fenced off. The security's probably somewhat higher than it was. They've always had the check gates, but I think that they're probably a little bit more thorough when you come through there. Coming along here, you'll see some of the base housing. This is where a lot of our fine young men and women stay when they're not on duty. This is the beach side across the way, where a lot of them spend their free time. again, like I said, I just wanted to take a little time and recognize the men and women of our armed services this, Memorial Day. Especially those that have passed and given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. I want to just take a ride this way and, have that conversation. Again, I'd rather talk about motorcycles. I'd rather not focus on these things, but hey, it's important. Attitudes about our military. People need to know just what heroes they really are. It's not unusual in this area. You'll see men and women in the military out training, jogging. I'll never forget, right after 9/11, I was coming down the stretch of road here. And like I said, it's really not unusual to see people biking and running or jogging along this road. But coming up on the right, I saw an unusual formation of men. They weren't just jogging, man. They were just flat out running. You would think that they were on the last lap of, an Olympic event. They were really pouring it on, and they were kind of running in an unusual formation. They were kind of close-knit, and from a distance, like I was probably right about here, I really couldn't see why the formation. But the closer I got, I could see what was going on. These men were really pouring it on, giving their all. There was a group of 8 men and 2 sets of 4. They were actually, they had a stretcher in between with loaded with gear, and so they were probably practicing drills on getting men and women off the battlefield or out of harm's way. The dedication those men are showing that morning, the amount that they were pushing themselves. Very grateful for people that are willing to train that hard for such a hard job. There's no glory, no gold medal to be won for that. So they're out there, picking up those that have fallen, patching them together the best they can, getting them to safety if they can. So probably under fire at times, seeking, having to worry about their own safety. So like I said, our armed forces are full of heroes. I hope you take the time to recognize them as we pass Patrick Air Force Base here. Again, I just want to take this morning, share this beautiful sunrise here in Cocoa Beach, talk about the wonderful men and women in our armed services. And I know I'm grateful. I'm going to ask that you be grateful as well. I'm going to ask that you, whenever you see someone in uniform, you take a moment to say thank you, shake their hand if you can, pat them on the back, just let them know how much you appreciate the service, how much they appreciate the sacrifice that they make. It's not always the big sacrifices, the loss of limb or the loss of life. Sometimes, it's just, hey, they're away from their families, long deployments. Sometimes they're not there when their kids are born, or they lose a parent, or there's a lot of times that they'd probably rather be with family, and they're out saving the world so that we can be with our family. So just remember them. Remember those in the past that have given all. Remember those that are still with us. That they too may at some point have to do the same. Be thankful, be grateful. I think it's a real important in life to be grateful. Don't take too much for granted, especially our freedoms. It's often said that you don't realize what you have until it's gone. I hope we don't need to lose our freedoms before we realize how great we had it. So again, please take the time to thank the men and women of service. Take a moment this weekend to remember those that have given all so that we can have all that we have. I think it's real important. I think it's important for us as individuals to help us grow, to recognize those that have made such sacrifices, and if we can offer small sacrifice in exchange to our fellow man, if we can help those that have returned in some way, wounded warrior projects or whatever, or if we can help with local shelters, or if there's something we can do, help if we could just be that person, step up to the plate and do the right thing. And even if it's not for a military member, be a hero in somebody's life. If you can reach out and help somebody, be sure you do. Like I said, there are a lot of people doing for you, so that you'll have the time and freedom to reach out and help others. So I'm going to leave this morning. I'm going to sign off and say, safe and happy motoring, and thanks for watching. I think I might take a minute and attach a little clip here, some inspiration from YouTube. A little music video I watched the other day. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll find it inspirational. And if you get a chance, check out our YouTube channel. I think you'll find some nice music, inspirational music there. So again, this is Chip from the Iconic Sports Cycle, signing off. Talk to you real soon. Bye.
So let our free men stand, defend their homes from the world's desolation. Oh, see, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets wrecked the land, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say